Basic Appraisal Principles, page 568. Figure 220.1. Relationship to Economic Principles. Economic principles, substitution, contribution, balance, change, and externalities are in the economic principles box. The arrow underneath economic principles, the arrow says influences, the next box. The next box is supply and demand. The arrow pointing down from supply and demand influences actions of buyers and sellers. The arrow underneath actions in buyers and sellers influences the sales comparison approach to value. Because most real estate transactions are financed, the availability of financing and favorable interest rates can have a significant effect on supply and demand. High interest rates usually result in a reduction in purchases, which causes sales prices to fall. Conversely, if interest rates fall, there is generally an influx in purchases and prices tend to increase. Substitution. In the sales comparison approach, an opinion of value is determined through analysis of sales prices of similar or competing properties. The principle of substitution, when applied to the sales comparison approach, states that when two or more properties are equal, that one priced the lowest will attract the greatest demand and will likely sell first. Or if two or more items are priced the same, the one with more amenities or appeal will sell first. In theory, the value of a property tends to be set by the price that would be paid to acquire a substitute property of similar utility and desirability. End of page. Page 569. For example, the asking price for property A is $200,000. However, a nearby property B, is for sale. For sale is very similar overall to the subject and is listed for $185,000. The seller of house A is not likely to receive an offer of $200,000 based on the principle of substitution for house B. If the appraiser is unable to locate substitute properties, then the sales comparison approach is not a valid approach to value. Contribution. The principle of contribution is essential to the sales comparison approach. It states that the value of a component of a property, such as a fireplace or extra garage stall, regardless of its cost, is equal to the amount of value it contributes toward the value of the property as a whole. For example, an appraiser found 3 comparable properties to use in the appraisal analysis. Each property sold in the 45 days previous to the appraisal effective date. None had seller concessions, and overall they were very similar, except that the third comparable had a 2-car garage, whereas comparables 1 and 2 had a 1-car garage. Sold prices. For comparable number 1, it sold for $200,000. Comparable number 2 sold for $200,000. And comparable number 3 sold for $205,000. The appraiser can assume that because the only differing component between all comparables is that comparable 3 had the second garage stall that contributes $5,000 toward the value of comparable 3. The key to the sales comparison approach to value is the ability to extract the adjustments to the comparable directly from the market. The principle of contribution provides the method for doing just that, where the adjustment amount is based on the contributory value amount. Balance. The actions of buyers and sellers cause a market to move toward equilibrium. However, buyer demand and housing supply continually change. Appraisers must watch for these changes or imbalances in the market that affect price. For example, an oversupply can cause prices to fall, whereas an undersupply will cause prices to increase. The appraiser may employ analysis such as months of inventory and absorption rates to determine a market's relativity to a balanced market. Change. When completing an appraisal using the sales comparison approach, the appraiser must take into consideration market conditions surrounding the comparables at their time of sale and make any necessary adjustments to align the comparable to the market conditions that are in effect as of the date of the appraisal. It is for this reason that appraisers prefer using the most recent comparable sales. End of page.